Welcome to the United Way Difference, a program that discusses Oshkosh community needs and how local nonprofit agencies are supporting people in our area. United Way's focus in the areas of income, education, health, and volunteerism helps to build a stronger, more caring, and compassionate community. The United Way Difference is brought to you by the Oshkosh Area United Way.
Hi, and welcome to the United Way Difference. I'm Sue Ponick from United Way, and my guests today are Judy Olson with Child Care Resource and Referral. She's the executive director there, and Wendy Schwabe, who is the program manager. Did you get a new title?
Regional manager.
Regional program manager or regional manager? Regional manager for Family Services of Northeast Wisconsin. And today our topic is going to be we're going to be talking about child care and the importance of early learning and quality child care. So I'm going to welcome my guests. Thank you for being here. This is going to be like sitting around the table having coffee because we have to talk about a really important issue. But before we get on to the issue, maybe our viewers and our listeners would like to know just a little bit about your agencies and what you do so that they understand why you are the experts on the program today. So Judy, do you want to start?
Sure, absolutely. So our service delivery area is 5 counties in the Fox Valley, and Child Care Resource and Referral assists families in their search for child care, and we provide a lot of technical assistance in Spanish and English. And for the child care provider side of it, we provide a lot of support in training of child care providers to keep them current on issues as they work with children each day. And we're the regional office for Young Star, which is a 5-star rating program.
Okay, and when you talk about Young Star as a 5-star rating program for what?
For child care programs, both licensed homes, licensed centers, certified homes, before and after school programs, and school preschools, and well as drop-in centers.
Okay, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
And how many counties?
5.
5 counties, okay.
Yes.
So, Wendy, with Family Services of Northeast Wisconsin, basically we're talking the Parent Connection program down here in the Oshkosh area. Do you work closely with Wendy?
With Judy?
Judy?
Sure.
Sorry, with Judy, the other Wendy?
We do. We have a Parent Connection of Family Services is a program designed to help families transition into parenthood and to be their child's first and best teacher. So many times we'll have prenatal or pregnant moms and families that are coming through our program looking for child care, and that's our first referral to them is then to Child Care Resource and Referral.
Okay.
But for us in the Oshkosh area, we do home visitation, the Parents as Teachers program. It's an evidence-based model that is recognized by the federal government as one of the 7 models. And then we also do workshops for parents, everything from 1, 2, 3 Magic, Love and Logic, nurturing, just anything that might assist them in raising their kids.
Okay. Before we move on, what we're going to actually show you now is a video clip of a DVD series called Raising of America, and it really talks about the challenges that we in the United States have with the issue of child care and supporting families who are working families. So watch this for about 30 seconds and then we'll come back to you.
Why are America's children faring worse than other countries?
Funding was cut. There was no paid maternity leave.
We do not invest enough in parents.
The stakes for our country have never been higher.
This is the future right here.
If we don't do it right early, we pay more for it later.
The crisis.
How am I going to take care of everything that they need?
And how we can change course.
We have the potential to do so much.
On the Raising of America.
So you got a little snippet of the issues that we're facing here. And Wendy, I'm going to talk with you first. You know, there were a couple of things that they said, we don't invest in parents, okay? But then they also said if we don't invest in children, if we don't do this right, we're going to pay later. Why is early learning and early child care, but mostly early learning, I'm going to ask you the early learning question. Why is that so important?
About 90% of a child's brain development happens before their 5th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and the critical periods between 1 and 3 is a very big chunk of that learning. If those things aren't learned, like attachment and trust, and we can talk about little things like colors and numbers, like when they get to school, but the foundation of all that learning happens between 1 and 3. So if we don't do it right, we're going to have to go back and fix things later.
So when you say that all that happens, what happens? I mean, what's going on in that little brain?
Well, I'm going to simplify it.
Thank you.
But there are these neurons that fire. Okay, they fire this way, and then they catch them on this side. And every time there is an experience, whether it's a positive experience or a negative experience.
So like a smile could be?
A smile, a reaction to the child's face. So
Okay.
These neurons are firing, and then these are catching. And eventually, they connect like this, and there's some myelin tissue that wrap around it. And those connections last a lifetime. So there's some research that talks about Alzheimer's and the breakdown of that myelin tissue around there. We don't know yet what the early learning piece connects to Alzheimer's, but we know there's some sort of a link.
Okay. And how important is vocabulary then? I mean, I know we do the Dolly Parton Imagination Library program because we know it's the right thing to do, because once upon a time someone said that children that have more vocabulary words, or more words in their vocabulary, I should say, will have more positive outcomes when they get to school and when they complete school. So what's with the vocabulary?
So a child learns vocabulary by hearing it, right? Because
Okay.
they can't read at this point. So when a parent or an adult caregiver reads or speaks to the child, they're exposing the child to words. So simple things as far as like changing the child's diaper. I'm going to change your diaper now. We're going to take your diaper off. Oh, here's your sock. We're labeling things that are ordinary for that child, exposing them to words. So we're hopeful that between 1 and 1.5, a child will have 20 words that they can express. They'll understand many more, but those are the words that they can express. And then that escalates to, by the time they're 2, we want 200 to 300 words. They can't say those words if they're not exposed to them. So we need that face-to-face interaction, exposure to words.
Okay, and we had talked a little bit about when the child responds to an adult.
Absolutely.
Talk about that a little bit.
That is critical in child development.
I mean, I know we make faces at babies all the
Yeah.
time. It's what adults do. Even if you're not a parent, you see a baby, you make a face, and you're trying to get that baby to react.
And does a baby react?
They usually do.
They do, because it is an interaction. So if you put a child in front of a TV screen or a computer screen, and they try to engage a child, the child will be blank-faced. If a child makes a facial expression, the computer can't respond to that. It needs another person. It needs a human being. And that's how they learn, is through those facial expressions. So if a parent is engaging with a child and they're laughing and the child laughs and the parent smiles back, there's a positive reinforcement. If the parent turns their head away and doesn't look at the child will either start to squirm or just stop because they're not getting a response.
Okay, and I'm not sure if this showed up on the screen, but we did have a graphic that talked about the need to support early education efforts. So, we were talking about 90% of the brain that develops or from birth through age 5.
Right.
So, and what's with the healthy activation? What do you mean by that? Children's brains need healthy activation.
Well, it's kind of what we were just talking about. That responsiveness between the parent or an adult and a child.
Okay, and then of course we talked about the strong vocabulary, which translates into lifelong language skills,
Yes.
and then the fact that infant brains depend on that responsiveness of the adults.
And the vocabulary, if we go back to that, I always like to share this with parents. The more vocabulary a child has, it's easier for them to express their needs and wants. So there's fewer tantrums. So if you want a child that's not going to tantrum as much, you are going to want to teach them to be able to share their needs either verbally or through sign language of some sort, so that it'll cut down on tantrums.
It'll cut I think that parents would start talking right away. But I never really thought about how engaged you can be just changing a diaper. So take every opportunity to engage with your child.
Yes.
Whether it's changing a stinky diaper or preparing that meal or bringing that meal to the table.
Getting in the habit of reading to the child. It doesn't matter what you read. You can read Forbes magazine or you can read a baby book. It doesn't matter. They need to hear the words.
Okay. Well, Judy, you talked about earlier that parents are the child's first and best teacher. And why is that so important? I mean, because I keep thinking, well, a lot of parents maybe don't know how to be a teacher.
I think it's a natural response for a parent. You know, we always say to parents, all you need to do is talk, listen, sing with your children. It isn't, you don't need electronics, you don't need toys, and that's how you're going to be a successful parent. Children need to hear something like 8 to 10 or 20,000 words before they enter school. So I think by age 12, if they're going to know 50,000 words that they can actually repeat. So it's important, like Wendy suggested, that let's start early, right out of the womb. Start talking to that baby.
You know, but I'm going to put myself in the place of a family, maybe with a child now, and but I work. When do I have time for this?
Right.
You know, I mean, how do working parents deal with, you know, raising children, working, sometimes two jobs?
Right. They do.
And so how do they deal with that?
So then we go to the caregiver situation. So we have licensed programs, we have unlicensed programs, we have relatives caring for children. But something I think everybody in this Wisconsin needs to think about, that children, if they enter a child care program or a relative's home, whatever their choice is, that let's say at 6 to 8 weeks, if that child stays in that facility or home for 6 weeks or 8 weeks until they start kindergarten, now figure this is approximately their waking hours Monday through Friday, 52 weeks out of the year, sometimes 50 if there's vacations, that these children spend more time in child care than they do K through 12.
Oh my God.
And that, I think we really need to think about that, and that's where we get why quality is so important, especially what Wendy mentioned, 0 to 5, that's when that brain develops, 0 to 3, you know, those neurons are connecting, and so it's very important that we have quality child care. So, you know, parents are the first teachers, and so a child's caregiver has an impact on the quality of their learning experience, obviously. So caregivers, again, that spend Monday through Friday, the waking hours, and children have a quality care and learning experience, they're more likely to succeed in school and be a successful adult.
How important is that interaction with the other children in the child care center in that setting?
It's very critical, and I think teacher interactions are probably more critical. I mean, they learn to play and get along with others, but it's the teacher in the classroom that has to have good interactions with the children as well, because she's the adult in the room, and she's the one that has the language that's already developed, and so teaching with the children. So
what does good quality child care look like?
Well, you know, there's many components. So I would have to say the critical ingredient for nurturing success. So I would say if we had highly skilled, well-paid child care staff is probably number one. Small class sizes, you know, infant rooms are 1 adult to 4 babies. If we could get that down to 1 to 2, and centers could still make some type of a profit, they don't make a lot of profit on infants, that would help a lot. A language-rich environment, that there are books in every interest center, in the housekeeping, and over in the in the science area, that there's books in every area, that helps with that rich environment for language. Age-appropriate curricula is important. I think stimulating materials in a safe physical setting, indoors and outdoors, and then a warm, responsive interaction between staff and those little children. It's not asking a lot, but you have to have the right person in that classroom to make all of this happen.
Well, let's talk about that person. What kind of education do most child care providers have? And I'll just, the centers or?
Centers and homes. I would say we have people with 80 hours, 1-year degrees, 2-year degrees, 4-year degrees, master's degrees.
Okay.
And so with Youngstar, there are some components.
And that's that rating system
That's
again.
That's the Youngstar rating system. That is one of the components in Youngstar is staff training and education.
We have a graphic that I apologize, is very difficult to read on the screen, but it talks about the Youngstar rating system. Is that Youngstar rating system just in Wisconsin, or is that a federal program?
We have our own rating system. Other states have their own. Some are similar and some are very different.
So, but is Youngstar ours?
It is Wisconsin's.
It's Wisconsin's, okay.
Yes.
And would you know what % of child care providers are where on the scale? I mean, 5 is the best?
5
Or
is
one-
the best
okay.
and 1 is low. Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so that we have this system, what does that mean?
It means that there is technical assistance. People go on site and give them at least 10 hours of technical assistance to help them with their business practices, to help get their staff on the registry, to help them with the curriculum. They're another eye. They can be the other eyes in the classroom and do some observations that maybe the director doesn't have time to do. So it's really raising the bar, I think, in childcare. It's a very helpful system.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be a 5, do you also get compensated for?
You do. Youngstar is not mandatory. It's only mandatory if you take subsidy children, and then you get paid through the state.
Okay, so when a family might receive a subsidy for child care.
Correct.
And how would a family qualify for that?
It's based on their income.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep.
And then if you're a 5-star, you get more of a subsidy for those?
You get a reimbursement, and
Right.
depending on the number of children you care for that are on subsidy, and they call it a bonus. You'll get a bonus for taking those children, so you get a little higher rate of pay if you're a 5-star versus a 4 versus a 3 versus a 2.
Okay.
So it's an incentive program.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what % of child care providers in your region are?
Actually, the
Youngstar?
Northeast region in Wisconsin is fairly high in
Okay.
4- and 5-star programs, and because we've had some of these programs previous to Youngstar, and so it was easy for them to get through a lot of this
Oh, great.
information. So we're fairly high. I don't have the numbers with me.
Okay, but
Mhm.
high.
It's
So-
high.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we talked about the Youngstar, but how many kids would you anticipate are probably in childcare at any one time?
Well, in Wisconsin, we have approximately 70 to 73% of children spend time in child care and early care and education. We have a lot of dual income families in Wisconsin, and I don't know if it's because our wages are lower and it's not inexpensive to live here anymore. So each day there's about 200,000 children in learning environments throughout Wisconsin, and approximately 84,000 of those are in Head Start or 4K classrooms.
Okay, and how does Head Start kind of come into this mix? So how does that all work?
Well, they're a licensed facility, just like a child care center.
Okay.
Their money comes from the federal government, and so they get support that way, where other programs, it's parent fees.
Okay, and then parents that bring their children to Head Start, they have to qualify some way.
Yes, they do.
And is Head Start from birth to 5?
No, they start at age 3 now.
Okay.
There are some programs that do take infants, but not in the Fox Valley.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking a little bit about setting the stage for what quality looks like, and we have a graphic that's going to come up on the screen. If you want to talk a little bit more about that, because, you know, this is not easy work, I would not think.
Correct.
So if you're going to set the stage for what does quality childcare look like, what would that look like?
Right. We're fortunate in Wisconsin that we have state regulations. You can be a state regulated, and that means there are inspections, there are health and safety inspections, and there's support to these programs. We have regulations for staff-child ratios, and again, I said the infants are 1 to 4. It's a little high, and it's a little higher than some other states.
Okay.
Some of them are 1 to 3 now, but again, it's hard to make ends meet when you have 1 to 3 because the ratios are so high with the teachers. Again, I think, you know, some of the factors are certainly working wages. Child care providers are the poorest paid people in our community. And it's basically mainly because parents can pay so much. Okay, is that commercial?
No. And then you also said that you talked about the nutrition, the safety.
Health and safety inspections, nutrition. A lot of the programs can participate in a food program where they get reimbursed for snacks and meals for children, so that helps with the income.
Okay. And then this kind of goes back to what Wendy was talking about, the sensitivity and the responsiveness of staff, having that interaction.
Very important.
And, you know, I'm looking at the two that kind of feed off each other. One that says active play, opportunities for active play, but then opportunities for quiet play.
Right.
And rest.
And rest.
Yes.
Rest is important.
Rest is important. I was talking with
Kiddos.
somebody who's probably about my age, and they said that when they went to kindergarten, they remembered the nap.
And I do too.
And they remember the nap. And so we need to still provide that for children so that they're
Yes.
not just active all the time.
Yeah, and that's a state mandate. Children
Okay.
need to rest so many minutes a day.
Okay, so what is facilitation of emotional growth?
Well, I think the emotional growth is critical. What? Oh, we're done. Oh, the emotional growth is critical. I mean, children learn, and they're all at different ages and stages, right, Wendy? When they learn, and we have to be sensitive to that. Maybe little Johnny isn't quite as up to par with little Susie, so we have to have an understanding of where they are as well, on kind of like like a growth chart.
Okay. Okay. So, you know, I'm going to jump a little bit here because something that was said in the trailer that we saw earlier, and it wasn't about, it is about we're going to pay later, because I think we're paying now. I keep hearing from business people that they're having a difficult time, that there is this gap in being able to find employees to fill jobs in this area. And how is what we didn't do affecting us now?
Well, I think people are having a difficult time passing drug tests and background checks. So what did happen? Why are these young children, these young adults in the situation that they're in right now? And I mean, they can't even get into the military.
Well, and
so the military is concerned.
And people are saying that they can't pass the drug test, but they also, it's the essential skills like coming to work on time.
Right.
And, you know, working well with others. And it's all that stuff that, you know, I've got this poster outside my door. It's things I learned in kindergarten. You know, and it's all of that kind of stuff is, you know, share your toys.
Right.
You know, don't hit. All those things. And so, is it too late? Is it too late for us
It's never
now?
too late. It's never too late.
Okay, so what do we do about this?
Well, we start today, and we just keep building every day and helping families every single day, and it will make a difference. But we can't go back, like you said. I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to teach resiliency. I think that's just a key to what kids need nowadays. We're talking about mental health issues, drug issues. We're talking about, like you said, employment, skill readiness. They haven't learned that because maybe they weren't in quality care. They were just, mom and dad both had to work, and they were kind of left to take care of brothers and sisters. And there's nothing wrong with family taking care of family. That's awesome. However, you have to have an adult that's responsible for those kids and making sure that they are learning the values of America, if you will.
Well, one of the things that one of the people in the video said is something about we need to invest in parents, but we need to invest in early education. And how will that help us fill the gap? I mean, has anyone ever figured out whether or not there's a cost benefit to investing in children early?
Well, they say every dollar spent is a $16 return. That's what the economists have figured out.
So it's not just us making this stuff up.
Correct.
Economists have really been studying this.
They have.
What about our juvenile justice system, or what about, does it help from that? Is there less crime? Is there more crime? I mean,
I think the school districts are finding out that the third grade reading scores are a predictor of whether or not children will succeed.
Okay.
And so if you have low third grade scores, they're going to be higher incarceration rates.
Okay, because kids just struggle the rest of their, somebody said one time that, and I know that, I don't know who said it, but I've heard it often, that up until third grade, you're learning to read. And then after third grade, you're reading to learn. So is that the reason why that third grade is such an important time?
Absolutely. Yep.
And can you really learn to read? And like if no one's been reading to you as a child, from infant to 5, when you get to first grade, can you catch up?
It depends on your teacher. I mean, you really need to have an awesome teacher. But yes, you can. It's difficult, but like you said, you're learning to read, so there's still skills that you can build on.
Okay.
It's that third grade marker. If you can't read in third grade, you're going to have a hard time learning anything else. Math, science, all of it. You have to, it's all based on reading.
Okay. Is there a disparity between people that earn more and people that earn less
As far
as children's abilities?
well,
You probably see it more than I do.
I would say that there's the more financial resources you have, the easier it is to be able to provide for your child. So then there's less stressors.
Okay.
When there's less stressors, you can enjoy being a parent. I think when we look at maybe a single mom that's struggling, going to school, working, doesn't have all that time to spend with her child, when she does have the time, she's worried about housing, she's worried about food. So I would say, yes, there's a huge difference between folks with resources and those with not.
Okay. And, what can we do now about this?
I have a little tip, I think, that I just read recently too. If families, it doesn't have to be the parent, can grandparent, a sibling, 15 minutes of daily reading aloud starting at birth builds brain capacity and social emotional skills that last a lifetime. 15 minutes a day, what is that? I mean, so simple. You can do it in the morning, you can do it at night. Again, it's that read, talk, sing, play. We have so many families who think, oh, I have to have this and this and this for my child. No, you don't. Spend time, sing, laugh together, play together, and read together. That is really what I'd like to leave with people.
Okay, we've got another graphic coming up on the screen about how we can support early learning efforts. And so I don't know which one of you wants to take this one, but what can we do?
Right. I think in the work environment, I think the reason we're having this whole episode is really, it's the Raising of America is awareness. If we don't understand the capacity and building these brains young, I don't think we're going to get too far in Wisconsin or this country. And so we have all the statistics, we have economists talking about this, so I think that's a good start. Companies can help parents contract with agencies to help parents find childcare. They can host lunchtime programs. They can support the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, which is free books to families. I mean, what a wonderful thing. You can create a room in your facility to offer child care or shift care, because there's a lot of shift care in the Fox Valley that hasn't been addressed yet. And to participate in scholarship programs in any shape or form to support parents and maybe help them pay for some of the child care. We have a disparity, I think, because if you're this income, you get your child care paid for, but it's the middle income folks who are struggling and cannot afford to pay $200 a week for an infant. And so where do they go? And every child deserves high quality care.
I saw a statistic that said if you have an infant and a toddler in child care, it would cost as much as $21,000 a year. I mean, that's a mortgage payment.
College
tuition. Well, we've got an event coming up, so let's talk quickly about that, because we're going to have to cut out in just a minute. So we're going to have an event, like an early learning summit. And Judy, do you want to talk about what we're going to do at that summit?
Sure. The first half hour will be 30 minutes of the Raising of America documentary, and then we're going to have Mark Tyler talk to the business community about family-friendly policies and why it's important for businesses to get involved.
And Mark himself is a business person, and he's on the Board of Regents for the university system, is that right?
He is, and chaired the governor's workforce development committee, I believe, is the title. And so it's September 22nd, 7:30 to 9:30. 7 to 7:30 is registration at the Oshkosh Convention Center. And you can RSVP by calling 44 North at 426-1970, or you can email Lynn at lynn@44north.com.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, you can also contact the Oshkosh Area United Way. Thank you guys for being my guests.
Thank you, Sue.